Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of the ECW 2014 Revival Series here on the channel using TEW 2020 as, weirdly enough, this episode, I've had it, booked for, a couple of hours, and I just had this weird feeling, in my stomach, just there's just something about this I just didn't want to do. It was the weirdest thing. I was laying it off, and finally I'm just like, wait, we gotta do this. This is getting ridiculous. I don't know what it is. Because, it's not like a mental block, because the show's, booked. I just had to run it. I don't know what, it was the weirdest thing. But Ricochet has a separation there of his clavicle, which, that doesn't sound good, as his injury takes a big toll, which Eddie Kingston gets the win with a blackout lariat in 10:23. Pretty fun pre-show match. I just thought that was a fun kind of styles clash of affair. You got the brawler and Eddie Kingston, the high fly at Ricochet. Just felt like that made sense. And Kingston caused it. Way to go. As Caval gets the win with the Warriors way over CJ Parker. CJ Parker's also hurt too, so that's another injury to add to the roster. And the Cyber Slam intro, which that's not supposed to be Christina Von Eerie. Christina Von Eerie is a friend of fucking Joey Ryan's. I don't want to book her at all. I was supposed to fire her a long time ago and just never did. I believe that's supposed to be Christopher Daniels, funny enough. That's why that went so well. Well, speaking of things that don't go so well, so we have the Premier Brand to start off the show as a in-ring promo regarding last week's loss with Brian Cage and Tony Nese just kind of berating his Premier Brand athlete in Brian Cage, saying that's not the standard of the Premier Brand. And Bubba, you got lucky last week type of deal. And this week, how about you take us both on, you and Devon, in a tag match so you get the full experience of the Premier Brand. And I'll get, the win for the Premier Brand. And we don't have to worry about Brian Cage fumbling the bag. Which Brian just kind of got his, arms crossed, shaking his head, just like, this fucking idiot. But as the Dudley Boys come out, and they accept this challenge. And Bubba was like, let me give you some veteran advice, Brian Cage, because you are right now. You have the tools to succeed in this business. You got the size, you got the ability, and you got this asshole weighing you down. You're better than that. You don't need that. If I was you, I would cut him as soon as I can and focus on myself and not have to hear about what he's saying, yapping at you, thinking that, he's going to get a first-hand experience what the Dudley Boys are all about. As the match, 55, was hoping it would do okay as far as I figured the Dudleys would be able to carry it. Obviously, with Brian Cage and Tony Nese, with them not having great chemistry, it was like, that might not work so well. As Tony Nese does take the 3D, as Devon pins him in 9:44. Then afterwards, Cage helps him up. And then, Tony Nese is just like, where the hell are you at? Yeah, how could I take the 3D? And Cage just shoves him back down, which gets a pop from the crowd. It's like, this fucking Tony Nese is a piece of shit type of deal. Figured it was a gamble having those guys in Tony Nese and Brian Cage be involved in not one but two segments that were kind of featured about themselves, but I felt like the story was kind of necessary to kind of start that. Not only has he lost Melissa Anderson to his Premier Brand, but also Brian Cage is looking to get that same success that Melissa Anderson has had, leaving the Premier Brand and being the champion right now for the women's division, which, speaking of that, tag match between Melissa Anderson and Karma against Paige and Becky Lynch. Now, of course, last week, Melissa Anderson on commentary for the Karma Paige match. So that kind of have those two as far as teaming up. Just felt like that made sense, and Paige and Becky, I thought, was a pretty fun team. So the finish of this one is Karma kind of blind tags herself in. Melissa Anderson's kind of like a little irate. But, they still go with the match. A little later on, Melissa Anderson kind of returns the favor. Karma's not too pleased about that one, though. She's not as cool-headed as Melissa Anderson was. As she lays out Melissa Anderson, starts the 2-on-1 with basically Melissa Anderson working about half the match, 2-on-1. But Paige finally, after Karma is, comes back into the ring to even add more insult to injury and lays her out. And then Paige hits the Rampage on Melissa Anderson, which, there we go, as that's the finish of the match. Melissa Anderson, best woman in the match, followed by Paige, and then Carmen, and then Becky Lynch. Nice little tag match. Obviously, wasn't going to, shock the world or anything, but, solid. And afterwards, out comes Paul Heyman. It's like, this has gone on, way too much. We've had Carmen be Paige. We've now had Paige and Melissa Anderson, and obviously Carmen and Melissa Anderson. You two are now going your separate ways as far as what's going on between you two. So November to remember. It's going to be a three-way dance for the women's title, featuring all three of these women. So Carmen, Paige, Melissa Anderson. Women's title matchup for November to remember. Should be a pretty good match there. And then we have a graphic for the next match, which the winners of this next matchup between Bad Influence, Frankie Kazarian, and Christopher Daniels, taking on the Kings of Wrestling of Chris Hero and Cesaro, are going to take on the tag champs of Drew McIntyre and Prince Devitt at November to Remember. So we got two kind of building matches for November to Remember. It's the main event. It's a 60. And the Bad Influence team gets the win over the Kings of Wrestling as Christopher Daniels pins Chris Hero after the Modern Art. And I felt like that was the best kind of match to have a number one contendership matchup because they are at this point 1-1, as far as going into this match. Bad Influence has beaten them once, Kings of Wrestling have beaten them once. So I just felt like it made sense to have it be kind of the trilogy there. And even though Cesaro is the best guy in the match, obviously, Hero's injuries just taking a big toll on him, and really Bad Influence is a pretty good team as well, and it just works out well. And it got the crowd buzzing as well for this main event. But that's not the end of the show, though, as after that match, we see a pre-tape of CM Punk in Paul Heyman's office, and he's just kind of talking about, Dark Soul coming up at November to Remember. He wants to be on his A game, and he wants to make sure that he is going into that match at 110%, and he wants to take on Tommy End as a kind of a I guess you could say, just a warm-up match before the Dark Soul match, and also, to kind of give a taste to House of Black, what Punk's all about, and Heyman makes it official. So, for the next SummerSlam, Tommy and CM Punk, which should be pretty fucking cool, as far as, obviously Punk's going to be carrying that one, but I think as far as, former network champion in Tommy End, we tried there for a good while to get him up into, a higher level, but he just never really got to that point. But, this matchup with Punk should definitely help him out a whole lot, I think. And even though Heyman kind of struggled going off script, it's nice to end off the show with a pretty good segment. And, all in all, that really saved the show. We still lose Pop in the tri-state area, but the main event did pretty well. Really, the Premier Brand stuff sucked. Figured that was going to happen. But I felt like it was a pretty interesting story, at least to have something going on as far as the story perspective goes. And also, we got now the three-way dance. We got Bad Influence now going to take on King Devitt, and then fucking the Noah series as Prince Devitt and Drew McIntyre. And also, little CM Punk Tommy End match to probably main event the next SummerSlam. I'm assuming that will be the main event. Maybe not, though. Maybe we'll have something a little bit more spicier as the main event, but I doubt it. That's a pretty good main event. And there we go. I don't know why I was so, stomach was in a knot about that, because, everything was pretty simple and straightforward. I had everything kind of thought out. I don't know why I was just procrastinating, but we got it. As thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time for what will be the final SummerSlam before the November to Remember show. Take care, everyone.